It's my official job, usually, to make sure that the audience is nice and quiet and ready to hear the graduates. And tonight you can see that it's not that hard. But I did want to take a moment to welcome you and to tell you how grateful we all are to have shared in the experience of your children's lives. And tonight our ninth year graduates are going to do the welcome speeches. So we are going to take a minute to I'm going to ring the bell. We're going to sit for just a minute and revel in the moment. Ready? They look beautiful, don't they? Please welcome Adam Galvin.
Good evening. Welcome to the intermediate graduation of the 2020 to the 2021 school year. Normally, Mrs. Manick would be the one to give the introduction, but we decided that, in the spirit of how different this year is, we should do something different for this year's graduation as well. I'm now told that I'm supposed to thank all of you for entrusting this school with your children's childhood, and I'm also supposed to talk about how important Montessori education is for developing brains. But I'm sure you all know that. Why else would your children be at this school if you didn't believe in the Montessori method? I can't believe this is my 5th year at Butler, my 3rd year in the intermediate program, and my first time ever as a 9th year student. This intermediate class has been very hectic because of the coronavirus, but it also went by very quickly. I hardly remember anything that happened this year, but what I do remember is that we laughed a lot. Every day, maybe Camden would say an awkward remark, or Grady would do something crazy, and the whole class would just erupt with laughter. It's what made this year so special. Through the difficulty of hybrid learning, we were still able to enjoy the class in person, which was, other than sweating in masks, an amazing and rare experience during these trying times. Though the coronavirus was always an obstacle, our class managed to go on a few trips this year. We started with the fall trip, which was us camping out in the field outside of our classroom. It was the first adventure we had together as a class. During the days, we would build rain guards and ramadas, both of which were basically useless. And during the nights, we would play Mafia and watch movies. I didn't sleep there, so I only heard about what they did at night. But it didn't seem like I missed anything that important. In January, we went skiing at Ski Liberty Resort in Maryland. While some of the students decided to stick to the type of snow sports they already knew well, some of us decided to try snowboarding for the first time. I can't count the amount of times I thought I had a concussion from falling so hard. However, some of the people who tried something new that day did very well. One of the times I was sprawled out on the ground, I remember seeing Ilham, Brooke, and Nora flashing by on their skis, which they were all trying for the first time. That day brought a lot of us closer together and taught us to come out of our comfort zones sometimes. Last month, we all went on a road trip to Civil War battlefields around us as our big trip of the year. We first went to Antietam National Battlefield, where we found out that there's a bitter rivalry between the Antietam battlefield and the Gettysburg battlefield, for which one was most impactful. Our tour guide tried to change our minds, but we all still think that Gettysburg was more important for the war. We also went to Gettysburg, the place we all agreed was the most influential. After Gettysburg, we went white water rafting in Harper's Ferry, where everyone thinks that their raft was the best, when really, what does it matter? Mine was the best though. To end the trip, we walked around DC in the hot sun to monuments and memorials. The entire trip was slept in tents, and almost every night was freezing, but the trip made many people talk to other students they normally wouldn't talk with. Sleeping in tents made our bond stronger. At least, that's what the teachers say. The year was full of sort of excitement I wasn't expecting. I didn't think that I would be as good friends with some of the 7th graders as I am now, and I definitely wasn't expecting us to go on any trips. The school year ended up being one of the craziest and best ones I've ever had, and I'm so thankful for everything this school has given me. It is now an honor for me to introduce our guest speaker this year, Grace Burwell. A recent graduate from Richard Montgomery High School, I remember when we rode the bus together at Butler. She had the kindest soul and would sometimes tell us stories she stumbled upon. When I first went on the bus, I became very carsick, but she talked me through the rest of the ride, which is just the type of person she is. It was always fun having conversations with her, and those times on the bus are always fond memories for me. Next year, she will be attending the University of Missouri's journalism program, and we wish her the best of luck. Without further ado, please welcome Grace Bearwell.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. Good evening to all of the graduates and families listening tonight. First, I would like to say thank you to the Butler staff for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all. I'm honored to be a commencement speaker this year. My name is Grace Burwell, and I'm a graduate of Butler's 2017 intermediate class, and soon a 2021 graduate of Richard Montgomery High School. 4 years ago, I was exactly where you are now. I was terrified to give my graduation speech. Public speaking has never really been my forte, and as you can see, I'm still working on it. 4 years ago, I left a graduating class of only 8 students for a high school of over 2,000, so I understand firsthand how intimidating it is to leave a community of close friends and supportive teachers for an unfamiliar environment. After graduating from Butler, I joined my high school newspaper in freshman year and since discovered my interest in reporting. Over the years, I've written for multiple sections of the paper, been a podcast editor, and this year an editor-in-chief. This fall, I will be attending the University of Missouri School of Journalism to study what I'm most passionate about, and I can say without a doubt that my teachers and experiences at Butler have greatly shaped who I am to this day, and I would not be the same without them. As I made the transition from middle school to high school, people told me that I would not find the same kind of support from high school teachers that I did at Butler, and they were right. An important part of high school is learning to become self-reliant, both in academics and extracurriculars. So don't hesitate to join that club you're interested in or talk to a classmate you don't know, because it will do you good in the long run, even if it doesn't feel like it now. Reach out to your teachers and participate in class. Go the extra mile and ask them questions, because they will appreciate that you take your education seriously. Butler prepares its students to actively learn and engage in a classroom, and you will take those strong communication skills and work ethic with you wherever you go. Something else I valued about Butler was having the space to explore my interests in a unique environment. If it weren't for my 6th grade trip to the Chesapeake Bay, where my class army crawled through a muddy swamp, I wouldn't have the same love for nature and discovery that led me to go on a whitewater rafting trip in the Grand Canyon years later. If it weren't for Miss Rodwin's humanities and writing classes, I might not have discovered my love for words, which later turned into a passion for journalism. If it weren't for the opportunity to harvest homegrown produce and make community meals each week during my intermediate years, I might not have developed strong teamwork skills or a love for cooking and baking. Butler gave me so many meaningful experiences, from horseback riding to theater productions to memorable class trips. Butler also teaches its students to adapt to change and confront challenges head-on. In 7th grade, my class spent months preparing for our intermediate trip to Costa Rica, where we learned about peace studies in San Jose and biodiversity in the rainforest of Monteverde. We took a day trip to a rainforest park where Mr. Powers told us we'd be ziplining through the trees. Now, Butler students are no stranger to adventure courses. They're practically a requirement for PE class. But ziplining across Butler's small creek is a big difference from the rainforest of Costa Rica. And after watching my classmates fly through the trees face first, I was terrified for my turn. But I remembered trekking through the swamp with my class at the Chesapeake Bay, learning to climb the rock wall at Butler, and all of the other unique experiences that scared me at first. I knew that I had the strength and ability to handle that challenge, and it turned out to be one of the most exciting experiences of my life. This is all to say that while you might not zip line through the rainforests of Costa Rica in high school, there will still be plenty of experiences that scare you and that you don't think you can handle. But I promise you, you can. At Butler, I knew I'd never encounter a challenge I didn't have the tools to adapt to, no matter how intimidating it was. Because I put myself out of my comfort zone, I made once-in-a-lifetime memories, and I learned more than I ever thought I would in the process. If it weren't for all of the wonderful teachers who've taught and inspired me at Butler, I certainly would not be where I am today. My teachers provided a safe and exciting environment for me to put myself out there and learn from the process. You might not know it now, but washing dishes in the park house kitchen after community lunch, learning to take care of chickens, and gardening in the greenhouse really will teach you indispensable lessons about determination, collaboration, and friendship that you will take with you into high school and beyond. From the streets of New York City to the library of the park house, my time as a Butler student gave me an invaluable perspective on life in the world. Graduates, my advice to you is this: don't take anything for granted. Especially this year during a global pandemic, our lives have changed monumentally. So appreciate the opportunities you've had at Butler because it is a one-of-a-kind place. High school will come with its own challenges, but it will also be one of the most exciting, educational, and valuable experiences of your life. So put yourself out there and give it everything you've got because it will be over in the blink of an eye. Thank you.
Rajan, congratulations on finishing Butler. When I first pulled Rajan's name to write a speech for him, I couldn't remember too much about him. Then I remembered all of those nights of playing Mafia, taking the role of famous rapper ZHC Rage. I remember jumping at the creek with him. I also remember that he makes TikToks and great memes. He is the voice of reason and intelligence in our community. He always keeps his word, and you can trust him for that. One time at the very start of the school year, we were told to tally how much frozen squash we had in stock. We counted and did all that, and after 20 minutes or so, he looked up at me and said, "Well, good news. We have a lot of squash." and he kept on working. Rajan is the absolute king of funny without trying to be funny. You can see it in the jokes he makes and the way he speaks. He has the most well-known laugh in the intermediates. You could hear it and know it in a room of 100 people laughing. If I could capture all of Rajan in one single word, I would say involved. Please welcome Rajan Sandwell.
Butler Montessori has been a very important place in my life, and it was a very good school. I spent most of my middle school years at this school. From the first time I came here in December 2018 to when I'm leaving now in June 2021. During this time period, I made many friends, got better at things I used to be bad at, and learned how to be a better person. This school had a lot of memorable places too, such as the park house. At Butler, I made a lot of memories, like the projects we did as classmates or the fun I had with my friends. One of the most memorable experiences we had as a class was PE with our gym teacher, Q. We also had fun exploring the woods as a class. But one not so fun memory was when I got cuts on my boots on one of our hikes. Those are just some of the memories I made at this school. I made plenty of good friends at Butler. We did lots of fun things, whether it was playing sports during recess or doing a project. I mainly spend time with my friends outside of school playing Minecraft. The things we do in person include playing sports and talking. When we do projects, we try to divide the work up evenly, but it's not easy. Those are just a few of my memories with my friends. Over the years, I have grown in very different ways. One of the most important changes for me is doing my work independently. I used to have to be reminded to turn my assignments in if I was online. Now I don't. I'm also able to balance my time better now by doing homework first. Having grown stronger at these skills also helps me feel better about myself. Thank you to all the teachers who supported me over the years. Thank you to all the people in my class. Thank you to my parents for supporting me. Thank you to Butler for doing their job to support me. The people I thanked, I hope you feel truly great for your work. It has been a pleasure to be a Butler for the past 2 years. The memories have been very good, and I hope I will do well at public school. I will forever be a Butler alumni, and this school will always be remembered in my heart. Thank you for listening to my speech. I hope you have a good evening. Thank you.
In the musical Hamilton, Daveed Diggs, playing Thomas Jefferson, says, "Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We fought for these ideals. We shouldn't settle for less." When I think of this quote, I think of Nora. Though I don't know her as well as others might, I know that she is an enthusiastic Hamilton fan who will never throw away a shot to make a Hamilton reference. She will fight to ensure that her opinions are heard. This is what makes Nora, Nora in the intermediates. She has an opinion on everything, including Bulgaria, war, Hamiltons, chickens, ducks, and even guillotines. Her hyper, passionate, and dramatic way of speaking, which is enhanced by caffeine, makes most debates and conversations a complete joy to participate in and spectate. She is a great and compassionate chicken manager, ensuring that the chickens, chicks, and ducks are in good health. She makes sure that the eggs are collected, chickens are fed, and drinking water is put out, and the chickens are safe. Her skill with chickens, knowing their behaviors, likes, names, and chicken hypnosis methods are unmatched by anyone else in this class. During the spring trip, I was in a car group with Nora, where I got to learn more about her. She loves to sing along with songs, and her funny remarks make many smile. She is ambitious, smart, and an amazing classmate and friend. We all wish her well on her journey in high school. Now please welcome Nora.
If I went back in time to talk to 5th grade me and told her that in just a couple of years she'd be in an amazing school with an amazing group of people that support her no matter what and that annoy her to no end, she wouldn't believe me. But through some crazy twist of fate, it did. I remember my first day visiting at Butler. It was December 12th, 2019, and I was very nervous. I spent my morning doing math, Spanish, and occupations with the 7th years and watching them present their scale factor projects. I specifically remember Camden presenting his scale factor of a rectangular prism. He dragged in this huge cardboard box and proceeded to get inside of said box, while we tried to keep it from falling apart. I also remember that afternoon when I watched the 2 grades give their Shakespeare presentations, after which we all made s'mores by the fire pit. Even though those memories are a little fuzzy, the one thing I remember clear as day was thinking to myself, wow, I feel like I fit in here. I belong. Previously to that, I'd always been the outsider at school, the weird one. I never really had any close friends, nor did I relate to anyone. That one day at Butler was more impactful and meaningful than my entire public school experience before that. One of the starkest differences between public school and Butler is that we have chickens here, and I have had the opportunity and pleasure to be chicken manager this year. I spent the first semester rebuilding the chicken coop and making it habitable for the chickens. Less than 2 months after we got the chickens back, we got 2 ducks, and let me tell you, the smell was an experience in and of itself. We had them in their own little wired-off section of the coop so that the chickens would get used to them, and it smelled so bad. Like, horrible. That being said, it has been a privilege being the first chicken manager with ducks. Another thing that I have to mention is all those fun times Jack, Brooke, and I had trying to see how many chickens we could fit on me at once. We got up to 13. They're heavy. The next thing is how I've changed since coming to Butler. I used to be such a competitive kid, which granted isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like anything, it's good in moderation. I used to not be able to enjoy games because I was too focused on winning instead of the thing that mattered, which is spending time with the other people. Now, I don't really care about who's winning the game as long as we're all having fun. The other thing was that I was such a sore loser, like a really, really bad loser. And I've definitely gotten a lot better at that. I also couldn't take constructive criticism from anybody on anything, anytime. Doesn't matter what it is, I just couldn't. Again, I've gotten a lot better at that, although I feel like I should mention unless it comes from Mom, because she'll tell me that I should have. Lastly, and probably the thing I've improved the most on, is public speaking. I used to speak so quickly nobody could understand me. It'd go something like this, where I'd just keep talking and talking and talking and talking, getting faster and faster and faster, and going so quickly that nobody could understand me at all. But I've learned to slow down and take my time, as well as making eye contact with my wonderful audience. And now on to thank yous. I first want to thank you all for being patient with me while I speak. Next, I want to thank my classmates. These people have been with me through thick and thin. We went through a pandemic together, and they were so supportive and understanding when I was going through a difficult time when my grandparents got sick. From tasing wars, that I totally dominated, by the way, to arguing over if chips are condiments, to the trying new things series. They are so obnoxious, but I wouldn't trade them for the world. I have been incredibly lucky to have this experience, and it wouldn't have been possible without my friends. They're excellent. I was told I could only put one pun here, and I figured I'd go for a classic. That being said, I was going to make a pun about wind, but it blows. The next people I want to thank individually, starting with Miss Rodwin. Without her, I would have never gone here in the first place. Without her, I'd still be bored out of my mind in public school. I've known her for about 3 years now, which is crazy to think about. When she first met me, I was a fast-talking, loud, Harry Potter-obsessed kid who didn't know how to write essays or focus in class. Now, I've become an okay writer who is now obsessed with Marvel, and has kind of learned to quiet down and doesn't go on as many tangents or rants about random things. Without her help on my essay, I'd have never gotten into Poolsville. She has made such an impact on my life, I will never forget it. I can't express how grateful I am to have had her as my teacher, so thank you very much, Ms. Rodwin. Next, Senora. Going into 7th grade at Butler, I never thought I'd get as far as I did in Spanish. Previously to Butler, I'd never had any sort of experience with it, and she's helped me more than I could have asked for. We've also had our share of laughs in class with Adam and Eton. She also somehow makes me look forward to fiestas, more commonly known as quizzes. The candy might have something to do with it. Thank you to Mrs. Daly. She did the impossible. She actually made me enjoy math. Except for geometric proofs, but nobody can ever do that. Her sense of humor is immaculate, and she has a way of making math understandable to everyone, no matter what their learning style or math level. Thank you to Q, or Mr. Powers, who is honestly more of a cool, outdoorsy uncle than a teacher. He also has a great sense of humor and gets me to step outside of my comfort zone. I never thought I'd enjoy professional tree climbing with ropes and harnesses, but it was amazing, and so were all the team building activities we had. Last but for sure not least, thank you, Mrs. Madalena. It is my greatest regret this past year and a half that we didn't get to spend more time together. Because of COVID, we didn't get to put on Mary Poppins, and we never actually had any music time other than these past 2 weeks. She was beyond patient with Adam and me when we were learning Thunder on the piano, which turned out better than I could have ever imagined. All 5 of these teachers are special in their own way, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you for making my year and a half at Butler so memorable and amazing. I also want to thank my family, without whom I wouldn't be here because my parents pay for me to go here. I want to thank my brother for not being too annoyed that I got to go here and he didn't. He was a little annoyed at that when we told him. And to my grandparents for their hilarious comments of, "Back in my day, we didn't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to go to this fancy school where we work on a farm with chickens. Let me tell you, when I was your age, I was in a school with chickens and a farm, and we didn't have to pay any money, and we were in a one-room schoolhouse with all 12 grades." I started this speech with, if I went back in time to talk to 5th grade me. But the thing is, I'm not 5th grade me. I'm graduating 8th grade me. And although this chapter of my life is coming to a close, I'm excited for the next chapter. So thank you.
stable part of the intermediate community. He always knows how to make people laugh, but he also always knows when to step up and be focused and serious. He's been like that since I knew him in the 3rd grade. Merle is also a great leader in seminar and community meeting. He's a leader quite often, and if it wasn't for Nora, he might have been leader every time this year. Merlo is also a great greenhouse manager and always makes sure that things get done as fast as possible. He also helps out with his classmates a lot. Not only do I sometimes see him helping his fellow 8th years with math homework, but when I was in 5th grade, he helped us get a lot of portfolio work done. Aside from being a great worker, Merle always tries to cheer people up. One thing I've learned that always characterizes Merlo is his sweatshirt. He wears this one sweatshirt every day during the winter and when it's a little colder in the spring. And I don't think I'll ever forget when he put on Mr. Rodwin's hat backwards and everyone said, "You look like a Tyler." That's been his mafia persona ever since. Merlo is a great member of our community and we'll miss him a lot. Whether it's him filling in for seminar leader, his jokes, or his mafia personas, our community will certainly be different without him. Please welcome Merlo.
Hi, my name is Merlo. I've been at Butler for 6 years. I came in 3rd grade after moving here from Brazil, so I was nervous about coming back to America. I was surprised that my parents wanted to put me in a school that had a farm, but once I learned that there was no homework, I was excited. Throughout the 6 years I have been at Butler, not only have I learned academics and how to work on a farm, but I also learned skills like team building, leadership, and creativity. But let's start at the very beginning, back in 2015. On my first day at Butler, I remember feeling super nervous because I had basically never even been to a farm before, and now I had to spend all day at one. Of course, I was only in lower elementary for 1 year, but it probably holds the most memories. When I think of Lower L, the first thing I think of are the dozens of going outs I did with my friends, going to every possible museum and memorial in DC. The one that set itself apart the most for me was my going out to the Air and Space Museum, because of how much my friends were obsessed with planes. It was like being next to a giant encyclopedia. Recess was also very different at Butler. I remember my very first recess, all the boys were playing football, and I would just sit and watch, extremely confused as to how the game worked, until one day David Kulik sat down with me and explained all the rules of football. And from that day forth, we played almost every recess. The majority of my time at Butler was spent in upper elementary. As a Lower L student, one of the things I was most looking forward to was PE and soccer with Hugh. I'd always look up at the fields and see the upper L playing soccer and would instantly get jealous. For almost my entire upper L, I'd always hear about the 6th grade trip. This amazing trip everyone always looked forward to. And when my time came, I couldn't be more excited. Looking back on the trip, my favorite memory is most likely sailing and almost tipping over about a dozen times before finally getting the hang of it. As I entered the intermediates, I was very nervous, but right off the bat, we went on the fall trip, and any fears I had went away. One of my favorite things about the intermediates is all the trips that we do as a class. It is a perfect way to ensure that all the students can bond with each other, just as I did with my classmates. An example of this, of course, is the fall trip in my 7th grade. I will always remember Butler as it holds some of my fondest memories and a huge part of my childhood. Of course, I can't leave here without thanking everyone. So first, I would like to thank my family for bringing and picking me up from school, and of course, for taking me to Butler. Then, I would like to thank my teachers for not only teaching us, but for being there for my classmates and I. Then, I would like to thank my friends and classmates for making school and classes fun. Whether we are going to the same high school or not, or whether we live close or not, I will always remember you guys. But now, finally, it's 2021. I'm a little taller than I used to be, and a little smarter too. Thank you, Butler, for helping me become the person that I am today. Thank you.
This person is kind. This person is kind, athletic, and thoughtful. This person is Joey. My favorite thing about him is his reaction when he sees a fly or some type of bug that would disturb him or annoy him. During class, you always see Joey in the corner of the room. You never see him sitting in any other place except that one spot in the corner of the room. Joey is a great indoor manager and a great baker. He is also very caring, and you can really see it when he's with the YCC children. One thing that is very interesting about Joey is that he is the one person you will meet who doesn't like being as tall as he is. We will miss him being in the intermediates, but know he'll be starting a new chapter in his life. In conclusion, Joey is an awesome friend who loves life and the indoors of the park house. He is a kind, humble, and intelligent person. The community will miss you and will not be the same without you. Joey, good luck in high school. Everybody, please welcome Joey Mark.
The first time I learned I was going to Butler, I had finally found a good group of friends and I wasn't exactly happy. So when the day came I was supposed to visit, I was pretty grumpy. When I got there, Marilla took me around the class and helped me learn how to use all the materials. Then I kind of just followed him around and helped him with some of the stuff for his portfolio. The rest of that year was very uneventful because I came in the last year of upper elementary, but I was excited to go to the intermediates. My first day in the intermediates, pretty much everyone knew the 8th graders, but I didn't because I wasn't in their upper L class. But that is just what the fall trip is for. My first fall trip in the intermediates was a hike on the Appalachian Trail. It was very painful towards the end, but that was actually a good thing because the real point of the fall trips are to bond the class. After going through the pain of walking up a wall of dirt, after 2 to 3 hours of walking before that, we were all tired. But it worked, and 2 weeks into the year, pretty much all of us were good friends. The first spring trip the 8th graders went on, as you all know, was in our 8th grade year instead of our 7th grade year. For the trip, we couldn't do anything outside of the couple states around us because of COVID, but we made the most of it and went around and did a trip about war and peace, which we had been studying for the past month or so. We did a bunch of fun stuff like exploring the campground's woods and going whitewater rafting, and in my case, freezing to death and getting sick. We went on a tour in Gettysburg, and it was really interesting, and our guide was awesome. And we got to learn a lot about the warfare and what the weaponry was like back then. One of the other things I wanted to write about was how Butler has changed me as a person. Back in 5th grade, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was pretty immature. But at the end of 7th grade, I started to realize that, and during that summer, I changed a lot. Not only did I mature at Butler, but I also learned so much more than I ever would have if I had gone to a public middle school. At Butler, I learned a lot more about math than I would have. I learned a lot about Spanish, and I'm much more polite than I probably would have been. At Butler, I've had the opportunity to go on going outs, field trips, experience a class in a small community where you get to know everyone really well, and things like community lunch and the microeconomy. There are a lot of people that helped me through my years at Butler. I'd like to thank my friends for being there when I needed them for anything. Thank you to my family because they found a way to deal with me. They gave me a place to sleep, they gave me food to eat, and they helped me with my homework if I'm stuck. Whenever we need to do something as family, we always laugh. And to be honest, you guys are annoying sometimes, but in the end, everyone's family's candy. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank my teachers because they are by far the best teachers I have had and will ever have. Today's my last day of school, and I'm feeling weird. I'm not sad to go, but I'm also not happy. I'm so glad that I went here. It helped me learn so much. Before, it was very hard for me to learn, and now with the way Butler taught me, and making you learn by yourself helped me a lot. The best thing that I ever learned was from a quote by Oscar Wilde I found in the park house. It said, "Be yourself, everyone else is taken." Thank you.
Ilham is kind, sweet, amazing, and loving, and has a small obsession with cheese. She is a great indoor manager who keeps the classrooms clean and organized. She loves to read, make beautiful art, and hang out with friends. I was a bit nervous to move up into the intermediates and be a 7th year student, but it has been so fun with all of the stuff we get to do together. My first day in intermediates, Ilham was so nice to me and helped me with whatever I needed. She has been my friend all throughout the year. At school, Ilham likes to be inside and read and do arts and crafts. But on field trips or small hikes, she shows how she enjoys being out in nature as well. I am so lucky to have a friend like her to do cool stuff with, like hanging out with the chickens, even if I have to make her, hanging out in the creek, in the woods, and in the classroom. I also enjoy the things we did on the spring trip, like whitewater rafting, going on a ghost tour, and learning all about the wars that went on in Antietam, Gettysburg, Harper's Ferry, and DC. I know that I will miss Ilham when she leaves Butler. It won't feel the same without her. But this is not the end. She was, and still is, a great friend. I hope to keep in touch with her and hang out in person or through text. Thank you for always being there and helping me with whatever I need. Thank you for always making me laugh and just being the best friend. Please welcome Ilham.
Writing this speech, I experienced a lot of emotions. Butler has always felt like a second home to me, and the intermediates especially have always felt like a second family. I have made so many memories at Butler that I'll never forget. Out of all these memories and moments, I picked out 3 that stood out to me, and these are the 3 I'm going to show you today. I can't be talking about my Butler memories and not mention my first one. As for me, it was the first day of 6th grade. I had just come out of a big public school, so transitioning to a small private Montessori school was a little nerve-wracking. I didn't think I would fit in or have many friends, but that wasn't the case. As soon as I walked into Miss Wilson's class, I could see how friendly everybody was. In the morning, I sat at a table with 3 other girls. We talked a little, and then it was lunchtime. Almost all the girls went to this one table and started eating, so I went there. One of us had candy, so we passed it around. Before I knew it, we were talking and laughing and having fun. Once lunch was over, I was feeling silly for thinking I wouldn't fit in. After 6th grade finished, so did upper elementary. I was going to go to the intermediates. I was excited, but a little sad that I was leaving the friends I made at upper elementary so soon. I was so excited to care for a farm, do community lunch, and believe it or not, homework. When I came into the intermediates, I realized 2 things. Doing farm work is fun, but not in the cold in the morning. And that after community lunch, there'd be so much cleaning. It was still fun though. I grew up so much as a person in the intermediates. Before I came, I was shy, hated talking in front of people, and hated bugs. Now I'm shy. Now I'm not shy. I am way better at talking in front of people, like I'm doing right now, though I still hate bugs. I have learned to be better with them and not freak out when I see one. The intermediate trips are the best things we do. There's the fall trip, MMUN, spring trip, and the end of the year trip. Each trip has special memories attached to them. Of course, I can't be saying every little detail about them because if I did, we'd be here for hours. So instead, I'm going to be talking about the ones that impacted me the most. It was a fall trip of my 7th grade year where we backpacked the Appalachian Trail for 16 to 20 miles. I don't think I've ever walked that much. It was a very fun trip, but the soreness afterwards was very bad. It did make us closer as a class though. You know the saying, you get closer to people in hardships? Yeah, that was basically what happened. Another trip that I'd like to mention is the spring trip of this year. It was a fun trip and some of the highlights included painting nails, going on tours, making fires, rafting, etc. The spring trip was 6 days long and in each trip we had delicious food. I also tried an apple sausage, which was unexpectedly good. Though it was very cold at night, we pushed through and eventually got warmer. And even though we did not have the whole class at the spring trip, we still managed to make it work and have fun. Even though my Butler years are ending, I will never forget the lessons I've learned over the last 3 years. Butler has taught me how to work together with people, be more creative, and be more independent. These skills will help me so much later in life, so thank you, Butler. Butler has been one of the best and worst things that have ever happened to me. Why is it the worst, you may ask? Because now I have to leave this amazing school. After tonight, I will no longer be a student at Butler. I will be an alumna, which is crazy. There are so many people that I'd like to thank, including my family, teachers, friends, classmates. Without you guys, I don't think I would have made it this far. So thank you. This speech is about memories, and I have to go make some outside of Butler. As T.S. Eliot once said, what we call the beginning is often the end. And to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. Thank you.
Adnan is one of the best leaders and managers I know. For example, he always comes out to help us at the farmer's market, even if he's not on for that day. He's also very focused when it comes to farm jobs. He always works hard. He's great with the chickens, especially the rooster named Tyrone, which he likes to hold on his shoulder. Adnan is a very chill person, like sit on the couch and do nothing, chill. Unlike most of us, Adnan's calm personality calms the rest of us down. Adnan also has a great sense of humor. For example, when we play Mafia, he always comes up with funny names, such as Baba Tunde. Adnan's great at video games, such as Rocket League. He often plays in Rocket League tournaments. He always makes sure that you are included in the activity the class is doing. He's a great friend and classmate. And I think I speak for all of us when I say we will miss him. Please welcome Adnan.
I made many memories at Butler throughout my 6th grade year until my 8th grade year. I enjoyed every part of it, and I'm sure that I will miss Butler. The field trips, the friends, and the experience I had were memorable. I came to Butler in my 6th grade year, and I remember things like the 6th grade trip and making my portfolio. When I moved up to 7th grade, it was even a bigger change, where it was a newer environment and I began to learn more things. I began to learn pre-algebra, which later helped me get used to algebra, and I also learned many new facts about the world and its history and humanities and occupation. When I reached 8th grade, I learned things like working in farmers market and working with other people in afternoon jobs. A reason why I'll miss Butler is how they taught me. The way they teach is with materials, and I think it's a good way of teaching kids because it helped me. When I came to Butler, I was worried that I would have trouble with academic goals. I later realized that I am a visual learner. Butler supplied me with the materials to help me with that. One material that helped me is the portfolio in 6th grade. It helped me organize better and catch up on what I need to know. Another way Butler helped me was to get a hobby. I like to take photos especially, and Butler has natural things everywhere. This made me love my hobby even more. I did many activities with photography, like my CEs and my intensive study blog. For my CE, I worked with a previous student that used to go to Butler and had experience with photography, come teach the intermediate about photography. When I was in 7th grade, I went on a field trip where we camped overnight, and was the first time I knew that Butler was more unique than other schools. We hiked, we camped, and we played Mafia. Before we even went, we had a training hike. The best memory from that trip was bonding and with my classmates, especially in the middle of the night. I can't forget about my intermediate afternoon jobs. The afternoon jobs are where the intermediates have jobs to help the park house and other things around the farm. At the beginning of the year, the 7th graders and the 8th graders get to know each other through jobs. Some 7th graders get partnered up with 8th graders, helping us to know each other more throughout the year. When I'm doing my afternoon job as microeconomy, where I handle the farmer's market and other money-related things for the intermediates, I can see how close I get with the 7th graders. I wouldn't have made it through my Butler journey without my teachers, friends, and family. I like to thank my teachers for teaching me new things about life and getting to know me. I like to thank my friends for helping me get through the school year. Finally, I like to thank my family for giving me the opportunity to go to the school and for always supporting me. I had a wonderful 3 years here. It was short and sweet, but it changed me as a person and helped me get prepared for high school. I am grateful for Butler for helping me grow as a person. Thank you.
Camden is a very interesting part of the community. For most of this year, many of us have seen the top of Camden's head on Zoom meetings. He is very quiet during the day. However, after school, when some of us get on a call to play games, he turns into a different person. He is funny and makes lots of jokes. He spends most of the night playing games with his friends. When he started coming to school in person, we could find him in the woods at recess, always doing some crazy things. He's often laughing at silly jokes with his friends and making them as well. When we do afternoon jobs, he's very focused and calm about what he is doing in the garden. His experience digging holes in his backyard is very helpful when weeding in the garden. Camden loves nature and doing things outside. He would spend hours in the woods building some hut out of some branches he'd find. Recently, we found a small waterfall and built up the walls to make a small pond. He loves climbing trees and seeing from the view from atop. There have been many times when I've tried contacting him, but he was in the woods making fires or building something. His love for nature is why he has been a great fit here at Butler Montessori. Camden is a very important part of our community. He's the garden manager who has to deal with all the angry kids that are angry about the fact that they have to weed. I'm going to miss all the fun things that we did together, from the tree climbing to the tunnels we dug. I'm going to miss him as a part of the community and as a friend. Please welcome Camden Charles.
The first time I stepped onto the Butler campus was the first tour I took of the school. I did not particularly want to move schools, but hearing that there was no homework and recesses in the woods, I began to change my mind. My first day at Butler was an interesting experience, to say the least. I've never seen such a hands-on approach to things like math and history, or my ability to withstand the collared shirts. One of the core features of Butler that I enjoyed was how much nature was involved in the curriculum and activities. The farm, garden, and pond studies were integral parts of Butler. Some of the best moments of this year have been in the woods or at the creek. I remember my friends and I going along the creek at recess and trying to jump the highest and farthest across sections of it without breaking our legs or falling in, which when it happened was always hilarious. The farm, garden, and pond studies were an integral part of Butler. Butler was also good at creating leaders, putting students in charge of many things around the farm and the community. When I was assigned to the garden manager, I quickly became one of the most responsible, irresponsible person on the farm. For example, I led a project on the farm where I had to construct a garden door, the process of which was somehow efficient while still losing every pair of wire cutters in the process. The community aspects of the intermediates really stood out to me as well, like the weekly community meetings where plans for the week were set and people scolded one another for not cleaning up after themselves, or community lunch where people reprimanded the lunch group for not doing the dishes. Or the different trips we went on, like the fall trip where I got trench foot from walking on the Appalachian Trail. We're not actively doing everything to avoid it. The actual schoolwork at Butler was much easier to build around than the standard. It was much more catered to each person based on their skills rather than a conveyor belt of unchanging material. This is one of my favorite things about Butler, since I never really liked having to adjust myself to the curriculum rather than the curriculum to each student. This is a hallmark of Montessori education and something I'm grateful to have had. I'd like to thank my friends and classmates for laughing at my garbage and occasionally doing the entire group project when the rest of us did the absolute minimal amount of work. I'd also like to thank my teachers for helping me with things when I procrastinated until it was due. And finally, I'd like to thank my parents for not freaking out when I came home with various injuries. When I look back at my time at Butler, the 5 years of my life it has been, I see as much as I hate schoolwork, it was a significantly valuable experience. Though after the 2 years of intermediates, I still don't know where the forks go in the kitchen. I'm thankful for the school and life experience I've gained here. Thank you.
It was really hard to write this introduction speech. I didn't know how to articulate how much I appreciate and will miss this person. I've known her for a total of 7 years. She's incredibly talented, although doesn't like to admit it. Artistic, feisty, playful, gifted, fun are all accurate words to describe her. But most of all, she's an incredible friend. I recall about 2 years ago when I was in a few different tough situations, and she, Noham, helped and supported me through it all, without even trying. To this day, I don't think the two of them know just how much it meant to me. The two of them have become my best friends at Butler and huge inspirations for me. Back in 2019, we were doing the musical Aladdin for our spring play. This person played Jasmine. We were all so proud of her, although she was extremely nervous. Just days before our opening night performance, she got sick, and eventually the day we'd all been waiting for rolled around, and she was still sick. Everyone was hoping and praying that she would somehow miraculously recover, but unfortunately that didn't happen. I remember the upper elementary girls and I stayed inside that day for recess, when a couple of the intermediates came down and broke the news to us that our Jasmine wouldn't be there. I was devastated and started crying right then and there because what was a Butler play without her? Fast forward to this May when she and I were the only two people online for the intermediate spring trip. The two of us planned our own itinerary for the week and finally got to spend some time together. That hadn't happened all year. It was so great to catch up with her. She told me that she had gotten into good counsel on a vocal scholarship, and while I wasn't surprised, I was very excited for her. If you haven't already figured it out, I'm talking about Casey Rajamanera. We love you, Casey, and I truly cannot imagine a next year in the intermediates without you. We wish you all the best at good counsel, and without further ado, please welcome Casey Rajamanera.
After being at Butler for almost 9 years, I can hardly imagine myself going to school somewhere that isn't here. It's even harder for me to imagine what my life would have been like or what kind of person I would be today if I never came at all. As I wrote this speech, I realized just how many wonderful people I met throughout these 9 years and how much I've learned at school and how much Butler shaped me into who I am now. I realized how large a part of my life it has been, and now I have to say goodbye. I remember on my very first day here, I ran and hid in the trunk of my car while the teachers tried to bring me to my new classroom. I cried every single morning after being dropped off for weeks or maybe even a whole month. But over time, I started to cry less and enjoy the fun lessons, going out to recess, and seeing my friends again. In lower and upper elementary, we went out into the woods often, which made me love being outside and nature, since I didn't really do that kind of thing before. And we started going on big trips, like New York for MMUN, going on boats in the 6th grade trip, and planning our own trips as well, which made me learn how to be independent and made me more responsible. But the things I remember most about those 6 years were the creative projects. I drew a lot of things, wrote lots of reports and stories, although most of the latter made no sense at all, and will probably never see the light of day again. The thing I remember most out of all those things was music. I didn't have a passion for it at first and used to be extremely shy, although I still kind of am today. But one day in 1st grade, I heard someone singing "This Girl Is on Fire" and decided to sing as well, since I knew the song too. I turned around for a second to see a lot of people looking at me and immediately stopped. I don't actually know how long ago later, but Miss Wilson told me to sing again when Miss Madalena came down to talk to her. By the time I stopped, I saw a large group of people crammed in the doorway looking at me, as well as pretty much everyone else in the classroom. I was very much outside of my comfort zone, but at the same time, I felt kind of excited when I sang that day, and I think that small moment is what pushed me to sing more and more over time, which led to it becoming a passion, as well as dancing and performing in general, as we did the winter festivals and plays each year. And I also think that it helped me step outside of my comfort zone and get the confidence to talk to other people as well. During these years was also the first time I was away from home for more than a single day. MMUN was my first experience like that, and it was one of the highlights of my year for, I think, 5 years or so. 3, even though I definitely do not like New York. Last but not least were my intermediate years. Although I didn't get the chance to do a lot of things this year due to the circumstances, of all the years I've spent here, it's definitely been my favorites. I kind of dreaded it at first, mostly because I didn't think I would be able to handle the assignments, but my opinion quickly changed after the first few weeks. We went hiking on the Appalachian Trail for the fall trip, worked on the farm and did farmers markets, did cooking for community lunch, built a fort out of the tables in the park house, and so many other things, which made these last few years so memorable. First, I want to thank my parents for 1, sending me to Butler, and 2, always supporting me and helping me, even though I try to do most things by myself and avoid asking for help as much as possible. I also want to thank my younger sister, who always tried to make me feel better when I was upset or stressed about assignments, even though she probably didn't know anything about what they were about. I also want to thank my grandma for being the one who always took me to and from school pretty much every single day since I came here. I want to thank my friends who I've met over the years, even though most of them have already left. But I'm still really thankful that I met all of them, and I'm really happy about all the fun memories and videos we made. Lastly, I want to thank all the teachers that I've had. I'm not going to name all of them because I've had a lot, but I want to thank you all for pushing me to be better, teaching me, of course, answering all my questions, and helping me as much as possible. It's still hard for me to believe I'm finally graduating, even as I wrote this speech and even as I'm standing here now. It definitely doesn't feel like I'm graduating, but here I am anyway. Time has flown by much faster than I thought it would, but I will always be thankful for the years I've spent here and the memories and stories that I will be able to tell about this place. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emma Rodwin, and I'm the director of the intermediate program. It is my pleasure to tell you a little bit about our two ninth-year students, Adam and Eton, and their very special presentation tonight. Adam and Eton joined Butler in 2016 in the upper elementary. Their Montessori school had closed its elementary program, and they were looking for a place to land. Luckily for us, they chose Butler Montessori. They spent 2 years in the upper elementary before joining the intermediates. I remember them as very kind, extremely polite, and difficult to tell apart, except for their hair. Academically, they excelled, and in other areas, their talents shone as well, such as in the play Alice in Wonderland as Tweedledee and Tweedledum and the Mad Hatter and March Hare. Adam and Eton transitioned to the intermediates in 2018, and luckily for them, they got to have Miss Bradford as their math and occupations teacher. They loved experiencing everything in the intermediates, from camping in the pouring rain on our fall trip to exploring New York City during Montessori Model UN and our immigration study. Unlike a lot of new 7th-year students, Adam and Eton were not shy to share their opinions in debates, seminars, and presentations. They would go head-to-head with some of our most convincing public speakers, and if you were going to go point for point with Jordan or Dex, you'd better be prepared. Adam and Eton would never shy away from the challenge, and their voices were often heard in the classroom, especially uncontrollably laughing over writing prompts and MMUN speeches. Their talents on the stage continued to shine as Kasim and Babcock in Aladdin. As 8th years, Adam and Eton quickly grew to be leaders in our community. They stepped up to the roles of indoor and microeconomy managers and had no trouble giving directions to the younger students. It always seemed to be the case that Eton would be baking cookies in the kitchen while his helpers were cleaning the turtle tank. But that's the privilege of being a manager, I guess. They gently encouraged the younger students to share their voices and opinions, just as they had done as 7th years. They enjoyed hiking the Appalachian Trail, once again attending Montessori Model UN, practicing for the play Mary Poppins, and bonding with their new classmates. This connection would really come in handy as March 2020 rolled around and we swiftly moved into online learning. You could always count on Eton to crack a joke to keep us all laughing, or Adam to have the worst Zoom connection ever. Throughout the year, it became clear that the twins had decided that this was going to be their final year at Butler and that they were ready to move on. Though it broke our hearts to see them go, we accepted that it was their choice. Until I received a call in late August, just a couple of weeks before school started. It was their parents. The boys had decided on their own that online learning in a public middle school sounded less than appealing. Would Butler take them back? It was an instant yes. Adam and Eton Yachin would be our first ever 9th-year students, the first students to ever spend 3 years in the intermediate program. We had developed an entirely new curriculum, got certification from the Maryland State Department of Education, and prepared our environment and classroom traditions to encompass a 3-year rather than 2-year program. One of the things that sets 9th years apart from other intermediate students is the opportunity to dive deep into what's called a 9th-year Capstone project. This project is based off of a program called Youth Impact Forum and allows students to make a tangible impact on communities outside their school. Originally, Adam and Eton had some lofty goals, including ending police brutality and racism in the United States, water scarcity and lack of resources on a global scale, and ending climate change. Ultimately, however, what they decided to focus on was the issue of obesity in Montgomery County. Adam and Eton are extremely athletic, playing baseball and tennis, and frequently working out at the gym. Fitness is a really important part of their life, and they wanted to share this passion with their larger community by encouraging others to live healthy lifestyles and reach their fitness goals. One day I said, "Have you guys ever heard of little free libraries? People put them up on their front lawns and in public places. They look like little houses with books inside. Anybody walking by is encouraged to leave a book and take a book. It's totally free." With that suggestion, the project, Fitness for Little Free Libraries, was born. Together, Adam and Eton worked on defining the scope of the problem, drafting emails, mapping their stakeholders, establishing goals, and writing mission and vision statements. They set up a time to meet with the Butler admin team, explaining their project and seeking funding for the materials to purchase fitness books and build a little free library on our campus. They had to consider the risk to their project's success and come up with a contingency plan for each. Finally, after all of the planning to put the project together, they had to actually do the work. I explain all of this to highlight just how detailed and long-lasting this project was. We began brainstorming in November, and Butler's Little Free Library was completed just last week. Throughout this whole project, Adam and Eton worked step by step and never lost their passion for the outcome. The thing that they said was the most impactful for them was that this project was totally unique and unlike anything else they had ever seen or heard about. In fact, Fitness for Little Free Libraries has already received a positive response from the community, with a Rockville resident posting on the school's Facebook page that she loves the project and will be passing the book on to her neighbor who's starting a 6-week fitness program. But it's not enough to simply do the whole project. Tonight, Adam and Eton have prepared a documentary about their 9th year experience at Butler. In this documentary, they will share with us their thoughts on the projects they completed this year, as well as their reflections on their Butler Montessori experience. All of the music in this documentary was chosen and performed by them, and all of the editing was done entirely by them as well. I'll also just make a quick note that the songs are a little bit louder and the speaking is a little bit softer, so don't be alarmed. But I invite you now to turn your attention to the screen and enjoy Adam and Eton's documentary entitled The Final Year.
I'm Adam. I'm Eton. And we're the first 9th years of Butler Montessori. This documentary is about our experiences in the 3rd year in the intermediate program. We hope you enjoy. This is our 9th year capstone project called Fitness for Little Free Libraries. Basically what Adam and I did is we took fitness books and planted them around little free libraries around the county. To start out our project, we had to find out what we wanted to do. So Ms. Rodwin brought to us blue sky thinking, which is basically us just looking at issues from small scale such as our county to big scale such as our country or the entire world, and we would realize which issues we could tackle. And we landed on obesity in Montgomery County. Once we delved into the topic of obesity, we realized that we would need to make a Gantt chart and a work breakdown structure, which is basically 2 ways to help us know which steps we need to take in order to achieve our goal. We also had to bring Mr. Powers into the project to help us make a little free library for Butler Montessori. We also had to make a budget that we had to present to the administration for material for the little free library and also for books that we were going to put in little free libraries all around the county. And then we put the books in the little free libraries. Another project that we had was writing a play. which I did with help from Miss Madalena and a special thanks to Miss Rodwin.
What is your play about?
My play is about pencils and pens who are basically just trying to live their lives in a pencil box but have very serious mental and physical disabilities.
So why did you decide to write your play?
Well, Miss Rodwin had a prompt for us during our writer's workshop class, and it was to personify pencils and pens. And I thought, wow, this would be very cool to make a play about it. So I decided to.
So who helped you along the way in the process?
Well, Miss Madalena was one of the key contributors to really making this a full musical. She helped me so much with learning how to compose and write the music. And I mean, I also need to thank Miss Rodwin for helping me come up with the idea.
And what has this experience meant to you, and what have you learned from it?
This experience has meant so much to me because it really helped me grow as a writer and a composer, and it really showed me that I'm capable of doing so many things, so it was really helpful for my self-confidence as well.
And did you learn any new skills from this?
Yeah, I learned so much about harmonization and chords for music. It really broadened my music capabilities.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of people say this about, really anything, work or some sort of school, but for me, Butler has really been like a family to me because it really feels like every classmate is like a sibling, to an extent at least, because when I'm with my siblings at home, whenever we get into little petty arguments and things like that, after a few minutes we forgive each other because we know that we're stuck with each other for the rest of our lives. And it's kind of like that for Butler because you know the classmates so well at this point that you know that it's just a small difference. You know that it's okay in the end because you guys are really like brothers. It's really a brotherhood and a siblinghood that really comes from being in a small community for so long. So I think that that's something so special that Butler gave me. I also think that Butler has given me so many opportunities to just grow as a human being. I'm sure that my writing wouldn't have been this good. I mean, it still needs a lot of improvement. Miss Rodwin definitely knows that. But it wouldn't have been at the stage that it is right now without Miss Rodwin's help and Mrs. Wilson's help back in upper elementary. Also, I mean, I never would have played piano if I didn't come to Butler. And that's something that I really love doing. And Miss Madalena helped me realize that. Miss Madalena also helped me realize my love for music and rhythm in general. And I also, Miss Daly taught me so much about math and geometry. I mean, now I know how to prove that a triangle is a triangle. So thank you for that. I didn't know that there would have to be an explanation, and apparently there is. Senora taught me how to half speak Spanish. I still need to work on that, but I mean, Butler has given me so many opportunities to really just expand my horizons in general, like what I'm going to do in the future. Because of Butler, I can do so many things, like I can try to at least, with the determination and hard work that Butler has taught me to do with the farm. Yeah, that farm, Some bittersweet memories with the farm, but I mean, it definitely taught me how to have a good work ethic and how there are immediate results to when you really put in the hard work.
So my Butler experience to me has definitely just meant a lot. I've been here for, I think, 5 years, since 4th grade, so yeah. And really I came here because my old school is shut down its elementary, and honestly, I didn't really know how to feel because I didn't know what was coming next. I was really just confused as to what my future looked like. And when I toured Butler, it was like, I really wanted to come here. I saw the horses, I saw the pool, I saw the campus, it's beautiful. So when I came here, I really wasn't disappointed. I met people that had the same interests as me, and I'll definitely remember Butler for a very long time. And I think that it prepared me very well for my high school. I would like to thank all the staff who helped me with my Butler journey. Miss Rodwin, Miss Bradford, Mrs. Wilson, Senora Castillo, Miss Daly, Mr. Powers, and Miss Madalena have all helped me thrive in this perfect environment. I honestly just want to say thank you to everyone who helped me throughout my Butler experience, and definitely just all of my friends. You guys have really made it fun for me here, and especially on my first day when I was here and I was nervous, you guys helped me through it, and I would just like to thank you guys for that.
I just can't get over how good that is every time I watch it. That was incredible. Thank you so much, Adam and Eton, for this gift and all of your contributions to the Butler community over these last 5 years. We will miss you so much, but we know that you are going to be off doing great things in high school and beyond. At this point, I would now like to say just a few words about this very special class of intermediates before we begin our presentation of certificates and diplomas. Well, guys, this is a year that we are never going to forget. We began the year in the midst of a global pandemic with all sorts of safety protocols and cleaning regimens and mask mandates. We left campus for a month and moved to online learning between Thanksgiving and winter break. And even still, we managed to have a phenomenal year. From our fall trip on campus, to skiing in the winter, to our spring and end of the year trips, we've had so much fun together. And I think the class would agree that we really, really have. Even in a worldwide health crisis, I have to say, I don't think I've laughed as much as I've laughed with this group. They constantly keep me on my toes, love to share all sorts of stories and jokes, and teach me all the important Gen Z lingo. This class is upbeat, fun, and incredibly resilient. They have just astounded me with their capacity to bond as a group in a hybrid learning year, no less, find the humor in any situation, and immerse themselves in every subject we teach. Their perseverance in the face of challenges has been extraordinary and is exemplified in the song they have chosen to perform tonight, Thunder by Imagine Dragons. And as this year draws to a close, I know that the intermediate team and I will never forget this particular class, our COVID class, who saw us through a year like no other. We will now present the certificates and diplomas to our graduates. These documents signify the hard work, commitment, passion, and love that each student has displayed throughout their time at Butler Montessori. It not only signifies achievement, but also serves as a reminder that the Butler community will always be a part of them and will always be a place they can call home. Murillo Abdallah. Adnan Idris. Joey Marks. Ilham Kadir. Casey Rajamanera. Rajan Samuel. Camden Troxel. Eleonora Venzel. Adam Yachin. Eton Yachin. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for our graduates.
When I began this speech, I'm not going to lie, I had no idea what to write. Once I started writing, however, the main things that flowed from my brain and onto the paper were the 3 trips that we had. Every trip as a class in the intermediates always brings us together. Being close physically helps us bond and get along with each other better throughout the year. Bonding was especially needed this year because of my unfamiliarity with the rising 7th graders and because of COVID, so we couldn't be very close to one another in general. When we started off the year, I got to meet all of the 7th graders because I already knew all of the 8th graders. The only thing that was different was that Murillo's voice was deeper and that Rajan couldn't speak a full sentence without his voice cracking, as you can tell. After I met everyone, I realized that I wasn't too excited for the year because a lot of the 7th graders seemed immature, and I knew they would be messing around with each other all the time. Throughout the span of the year, I learned that I was only partially right, as they grew in maturity throughout the year. COVID was definitely an issue, but thankfully, we still got to not only come to school in person, but get some of the trips that came along with it. Throughout the year, we had 3 major trips: the fall trip, the skiing trip, and the spring trip. The fall trip was the first trip of the year, so it was early, and not everyone was comfortable with one another. It was also earlier in the pandemic, and COVID was a more prominent issue back then, so not everyone could come in person to the trip. We camped at Butler and bonded around the campfire with marshmallows and mafia. In January, we had a ski trip to Liberty. For many people, it was their first time skiing or snowboarding, including myself. I decided to snowboard for the first time, and it didn't go very well. By the end of it, I'm pretty sure I became worse than when I first started. It was definitely fun to watch some of the 7th and 8th graders try skiing for the first time. I've been skiing for a really long time, so it helped me get perspective on how each one of us had different experiences growing up and how different people spent their winter months. After many falls on the slopes, it became the end of the day, and I think I could speak for all of us when I say that we had a great time, and it was fun to be together. Our final trip, which was in mid-May from Monday to Saturday, was our spring trip. Usually for spring trips, the intermediates go across the country to California and maybe even Costa Rica, etc. This year, because we were studying War and Peace, we decided to visit famous battlefields in our area, like Gettysburg and Antietam. Between every visit to battlegrounds, we would camp out in Caledonia State Park. This trip, in my opinion, was the best one of the year because we liked camping out and it was a good amount of days. The camping part was especially fun because everyone was complaining about the cold. And although it was cold for me too, I like seeing everyone complain. I heard from somewhere that collective misery is a bonding within itself. So I believe that in the cold every morning, when we would wake up and no one, and I mean no one, wanted to be in Pennsylvania, we subconsciously grew closer and relied on each other more for fire and food. Finally, I think I could speak on behalf of the whole class when I would like to thank Mrs. Manick for keeping the school alive during the pandemic. I would also like to thank, especially on behalf of the 8th and 9th years, the teachers that helped us through our upper elementary and intermediate experiences. You prepared us for high school, and we all acknowledge and want to remind you guys that we recognize you for helping us. I would like to thank the 7th graders on behalf of all of the rest of the class for making our last year at Butler memorable for all of the funny stories that we can reminisce on when we visit you guys, if we ever do. To end the ceremony, the intermediates will perform an instrumental version of Thunder by Imagine Dragons. Following the song, there will be a reception with refreshments that are individually packaged and available to take home to eat. Please welcome, for the last time, the intermediate class of 2020 to 2021.